What's up, guys? I'm Chris, and today you're watching a magic review on Mentalism Presentations by Aazan Makdumi. Mentalism Presentations is a 233-page book based on presenting mentalism, just as in the name. There are some methods in here so that you can perform the presentation, such as the centered hair, acidus, novus, different peaks and things like that. So you will find some methods in here, but they're very basic, and it's just a quick reference because the focus on this book is why we do certain things in mentalism. Why do we tear up a billet? Why do we place a billet into a peak wallet? Why do we use playing cards in mentalism? And I know that there's a debate on that. Some people don't, but there's some really great ideas, presentations, justifications, and everything in here. Why do we write things down? There's everything that you do in mentalism is covered in this book. And by that, I mean, non-method related. But if there is a reason for doing something in mentalism, there's a presentation for it in here. Justification, but a lot of the presentations are put together with ideas and presentations so that you're not justifying anything. Like, you're not explaining why you're doing this. It just seems natural. It seems like there's a perfectly good reason behind this, and it's part of the process. So that is huge, because I know that a lot of us in mentalism do struggle with finding the perfect peak or justifying why we do certain things, right? And with this, Aazan has not only justified things, but he's giving you presentations and reasons so that things don't need to be justified. For example, with the center tear, I will kind of explain a little bit of one presentation. Now, I'm just going to say I can't go into too much detail about this book. I am going to read the table of contents because there are different sections, and each section or category or chapter, if you want to call it, there are 5 to 10 different presentations, and some of them are fairly lengthy, so there's a ton of good material in here. But I can't go too much into detail explaining the presentations. Since this is a book on presentations, I would basically just be giving you a free copy in this review. So I will kind of explain or briefly touch on a few just so you can get an idea of what this book is kind of about. So, for example, a center tear. One thing that a lot of us kind of tried to justify is, why get our participant to write something down only for us to tear it up, right? And there are a bunch of different justifications out there. But what's been done in here is incorporated that action into the routine. So one, it's more of a meaningful piece, and you have your participant write down a fear, right? So essentially with your center tear, you're getting your peak, you're getting that information, but you tear it up as you would, and then you give your participant all the pieces. And what they do is they hold up a piece, right? And they imagine whatever their fear is. And as they hold that piece and think, they send you a little bit of that information, right? And you start to reveal things. You can go as slowly or as quickly as you want, as little detail to as much detail. But anyway, as you hit on each kind of piece, you get them to toss it aside. And with that, you explain to them that since we tore up that fear, with each piece that they toss away, they are overcoming that fear. And then ultimately, after, like 3 pieces or whatever, you reveal the word however you want. And then you have them just throw the rest into a trash bin or whatever. So essentially destroying the evidence. But what I love about that is we're not explaining why we tore it up. Like, in a sense we are, but we incorporated it into the routine. So that something like that just makes perfect sense. They're not questioning why it was tore up, because we're telling them with each piece you're overcoming that fear until it's gone. So rather than some of the other justifications that I've heard over the years where, you tear it up and go, never mind, we're not going to do that, and then come back to it later or whatever, right? I think that the presentation based around this, so it's actually a part of the routine, tearing it up, completely eliminates any kind of heat or suspicion in the center tear. So that's just one example. There are hundreds. So I'm going to read you the table of contents just because I want you to get an idea of the areas that he covers. So one is why we write things down. So a lot of great presentations there, reasons for why we have our participant write down rather than just think of an object, a word, or memory. And then it talks about billets. So in there you get some billet peaks. He'll teach you a method or two, and then presentations incorporated around just billets. And then he goes into billet switches. So for me, I haven't done a lot of work with billet switches. And the stuff that I found in here was very informative and very, very good. So I've actually started using billet switches a lot more now. I've only used it a bit, like not much in the past. And then it talks about the center tear, the Swami, peak wallets, playing cards, audience management, additional presentation ideas, and then a bonus fail-safe. So, like I mentioned, with every category, there's a ton of content. There was definitely presentations in here that I favored over others, and some that fit my style more than others, of course. But there was nothing in here where I was like, that's filler or that's not good, right? And anyway, if I thought it was not good, that's just my opinion. That's just opinion based. It might be great for somebody else, but what I'm getting at is there wasn't anything in here that I was just like, that's not good, right? It was all very good stuff. I just have some stuff that I think fits my style better and also piques my interest a bit more, right? Because there's also, I think the first center tear presentation had a completely different approach. Very well put together, made a lot of sense, and it was good, but it just wasn't my style. And then I read the next one that talked about the fear, and I thought, wow, I can use that, and I'm going to. So there's just a ton of good stuff in here. Quality. So the quality, I mean, it's a book, right? It's put together well. I don't really know what more to say on it. It's kind of like, there's the layout. Looks like that. One thing that I did, like this took me a while to read, and it's not because it's a difficult read or I just found reading presentation after presentation after presentation, it's a different kind of read. Definitely a different feel to it. And it's good, but in order to kind of absorb the different presentation ideas, I just kind of took a little bit on at a time. It wasn't one of those books that I could sit down and just continuously read, because while you're doing that, you're kind of imagining the presentation as it's going on. So I don't know, like I know with books you're using your imagination anyway, but it's hard to explain, and maybe you get where I'm coming from. It's not a book where you're reading to learn a technique. It's a book that sparks creativity. It's full of ideas, and it really gets you thinking about things as well. So, I imagine you'll take a lot from this book, but sometimes you might just take one aspect and then completely turn it into your own, which is a good thing, but it really gets you thinking. Difficulty level, everything that's taught in here is very easy to do. Like the methods that he goes over, they're simple, right? I know that there's some more complicated center tears and peaks and stuff out there. He teaches you a simple one, but obviously if you already have your own that you like, it'll work perfectly with this because this has nothing to do with method. So everything in here is really easy. It's just really giving you ideas, and everything is brilliantly written. It's so well thought out. He has put so much thought into all of his presentations, why he does what, and like I said, incorporated them so it's a part of the routine and not just something we do. Like I said, it's a bit difficult to kind of explain too much without giving away free material. So is it a worker, and who would use this? I think this is going to make all of your mentalism better. I think it's going to add meaning to mentalism that maybe doesn't have so much meaning. It's going to add emotion. It's going to add that creative spark. It's going to help engage your audience, because a lot of this stuff really brings the participants in so that they're experiencing things with you, right? It's not just a feat of skill or, hey, I can do this. You are definitely engaging them, and it makes them feel like they are as much a a part of the process as you are. So yeah, I think that this will amplify and heighten all your mentalism, which will include working material for sure. Who would use this? Mentalists, right? This is 100% on mentalism. What's the price and is it worth your money? The price on this is $60. Is it worth your money? I think it definitely is worth the $60. Do I think it could have been less? I would probably have expected this book to be $40, maybe $50. I think I'd probably price it at $40. But again, do I think it's worth the $60? Yes. I got so much out of this. There's so much that you can do that you can always find new material. You can create new material, or if you're doing something one way and you decide you need to change it up, or if you're doing a repeat show, open this book and you're going to find a way to use that method and present it in a completely different way, so that even if you're performing for the same people a week later, it's going to have a completely different presentation and it's going to look like a completely different routine. So do I regret paying $60 for it? Not at all. Not one bit. So pros and cons, positives, negatives. I don't know. The only negative is that maybe it might be priced a little steep, but again, I'm trying to look at this in a generalization. I'm comparing it to other books that I own that are maybe the same length, same quality. So it's hard to put a price on a book because the physical quality has really, it doesn't matter. It's the content and the material inside the quality that counts. And I think that this book definitely shines. So that's a tough one for me to gauge. I'm just trying to look at the overall picture in regards to other things similar to this. So that's not a negative. Like I've said a couple times now, I would buy this again. If I lost this book, or this book got wet and I couldn't use it, or it burned for whatever reason, I would be happy paying $60 again for it. Again, this will heighten your mentalism, which will allow you to present better when you're working and have people remember you more. So you have to decide if that's something that you want. And I think that any mentalist and every mentalist should have a copy of this book. The pros, there is so much content in here that even if you decided to throw away 50% of it, there's still so much that you can use. And like I said, I'm not going to use every single thing in here just because it's not all my style, but probably 80 to 90% of the contents in this book gave me an idea I'll use exactly as it is, or it gave me ideas to, take the concept and apply it to something that I do, or just tweak it a bit to make it more my style. So I can't say enough good things about this book. I know it's sold out a couple times. It's not sold out right now, but I think it has gone out of stock twice, and each time they weren't sure if Murphy's was going to produce more. So I would definitely pick this up now while you can, if it's something that interests you. With that, I would definitely recommend this book. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to purchase this. And with that, we'll see you at the next review.